Okay, unit 3 for the final review. So on number 1, what am I going to do first? Good. You take that third power and you distribute it to everything inside that parenthesis. Okay? So 3 to the third power is 27. And then this is going to be x to the third power and y to what power? The ninth. You're multiplying. So remember this x had a 1. So when you go 1 times 3, that made 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. Okay. On the bottom, we're taking the 2 and distributing it to everything. But what you need to be careful about is that you're also distributing it to this negative right here. So if you have a negative and a negative, that will end up making a positive. Okay, and then we're going to have x to what power? 4th, and then y to the 6th. And then we need to reduce if we can. Who remembers how you reduce?
The lower exponent goes to the bottom. It stays there. So x to the third would be y x to the bottom, right?
Okay, so what you're doing is when you're dividing, you're subtracting. So if there's 3 x's on the top and 4 x's on the bottom, you're canceling out 1 for 1, which means you'd have how many left? 1 x on the bottom. So I still have 27 on the top. With the x's, these 3 cancel out, and you're just left with an x on the denominator. And then what happens with the y's? So 6 of them cancel out, and that means you'll have 3 left, so y to the third on the top. And then just always double check, is there anything else I can reduce there? No, so that is my answer. Questions on example 1? Okay, example 2. What will I do on example 2? Good, you can do your box method to multiply. What size box would I need? Good. Okay, so I'm going to have my 3x and negative 4 on the side, and then 2x squared and x and negative 1 on the top. The one thing you guys have to just double check is your signs. Okay, make sure that you have your signs there. So then we're going to go ahead and multiply through. So this first box here, 3x times 2x squared is going to give me
6x2.
Perfect. 6x to the third is correct. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 1 is good, negative 3x. Negative 4 times 2x squared is good. Negative 4 times x is, and negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Okay? When you do it this way, normally all your like terms line up in your diagonals. Remember that you write it in descending order, so you always start with your highest exponent. So your answer should be written as 6x to the third power. And then negative 8x and a positive 3x make a negative 5x squared. Negative 4x and negative 3x make negative 7x, and then you have plus 4. And that is your answer. Okay. Questions there? All right. Example 3. Who remembers how to do long division? Okay, Anthony, what do I do?
It's like how many you need to get to that, like 2x minus 1 times whatever you need to get to like the 4x cubed and the 6x2.
Close. You're very close. Hesi Sai.
You have to get the 2x before x.
Yes, good. You're always looking at your first 2 numbers, which you were kind of saying that. You were thinking right, just didn't say it exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at these first 2 numbers. So 2x times what will make 4x cubed? 2x squared. And we line it up with our x squared term. So I'm going to put 2x squared on top of the 6x squared because these match. Okay? Then, who remembers what our next step is?
Multiply it by that and subtract it from there.
Perfect. We're going to multiply 2x squared to both of these terms. Okay? So 2x squared times 2x makes 4x cubed. Good. And 2x squared times negative 1 is negative 2x squared. And then Anthony said, but then we still need to change your signs. You're going to subtract. So we change this one to a minus and this to a plus.
Wait, why do that again?
Remember that when you were doing long division as a young child, and let's say you had 5 goes into 237, okay? So you first would go 5 goes into 23 how many times? 4 times. And you go 5 times 4 is 20. But what do you do next? You subtract. So it's the same thing here, but since you have 2 terms, you have to subtract both of them, which means you're changing their signs. Okay? So, and the whole purpose was to get rid of this number, right? So that one cancels as it should. This one usually doesn't. 6x plus 2x makes 8x squared. Okay? And then you bring down your next term, which is negative 2x. Remember that you're only looking at your first term. So now I'm looking at 2x and 8x squared. So 2x times what makes 8x squared? 4x. Is that a positive or a negative? Good. So we have plus 4x. So now we go 4x times 2x, which is 8x squared. And 4x times negative 1 is negative 4x. But then I need to change my signs. Very good. So this becomes a negative, and this one becomes a positive. You're right. These cancel, and negative 2x and 4x makes 2x. And then we bring down our plus 3. So now we are looking at our first 2 terms again. So 2x times what will make 2x? 1. Don't forget that. That is a positive 1. You have to write that there. Okay, so now 1 times 2x is 2x, and 1 times negative 1 is, but I need to do what? Good, so we have a minus and a plus. These cancel, and what's 3 plus 1? 4. Who remembers what we do when we have the remainder? Very good. So all you do is you're going to go plus 4, and then whatever you're dividing by goes underneath. So you have 2x minus 1 underneath. Okay? Just like if I go back to this problem that we did back in elementary school, and we subtracted, we had 3 left over, we brought down our 7. 5 goes into 37 7 times, which is 35, and there was 2 left over. Remember, we would write the remainder as 2 over 5. It's the same thing. We write a remainder with whatever we're dividing by. Okay, so it's the same process as long division that we learned. Okay, questions on example 3? All right, example 4. Factor completely. Cube factors. Who remembers what we have to do with cube factoring? Good, you need to make them all cubes. So how can I write 8 as a cube? Very good. 2 cubed, and then I still have x cubed. And how do I write 125 as a cube? Okay, a lot of people forget to write them all as cubes, and they'll like keep the first number as 8, and that will mess everything up. So make sure everything in the problem is a cube. Okay, once you do that, you make your one small parenthesis and one longer, because one has 3 terms, one has just the 2 terms. Who remembers what goes in that front one? Good, 2x plus 5. It's everything without the cube, so everything stays the same. You just take the cubes off. My first term is going to be what? Good. Whatever that first term was, squared. So what is 2x squared? It's 4x squared, right? We have to square both terms. Who remembers what your middle number is? You multiply these together, which would make 10x, but if this is a plus, this is going to be a minus. So we have minus 10x. And then my last term is going to be my last term squared, which makes what? 25. Positive 25. How many negatives will be in this answer? 1, and only 1. So always check that. Yes. Eddie, did you have a question or no?
Is that the...
Yeah, so the orange one on the wall, that's the same thing. Hesi Saeed.
The first one is negative and the second one is positive, right?
Yeah, so if this is positive, this will be a negative. If this was a negative, then this would be a positive. So it's either going to be one of those. Okay, example 5. I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds to try this one on your own. Should be trying this one on our own. Shh, during notes, no talking. About 15 more seconds. Okay, so we need to write everything as a cubed. How would I write 27 as a cube?
3.
Good, so we have 3 cubed, x cubed minus y cubed. All right, so now I make my 2 parentheses. My first parenthesis is,
3x plus y.
good, 3x minus y. I just take away all the cubes. My first term's going to be what? 9x squared. My middle term's going to be
3x y.
positive or negative?
Positive.
Why is it positive? Good, and my last term is going to be
Y squared.
plus y squared. And anytime you square a negative, it becomes a positive. So that last one is always positive. 3x, you square that. 3 squared is 9, and then x squared is x squared. Okay, any questions on those? Okay. Moving on. Whenever you're factoring, what should you always check for first? GCF. What is my GCF on this problem? 4 is correct. So we take out a 4, and we are left with y squared minus 4x squared. Whenever you just have 2 terms, and if you've already taken out a GCF, you just want to check for if it is a difference of squares. Is 4 a square? What is it? 2 squared, right? So when we write this as difference of squares, it will be what?
Y minus 2x.
Perfect. So you still have your 4 in front, and then when you break up your squares, you have a y in front of both of them, and you have a 2x in the back, and one will be a minus and one will be a plus. Always check if you can factor further, but nothing can be factored further, so that is your answer. Who remembers how to do example 7? You're going to go let z equal x plus 7.
Oh, I
Remember this now? So we have z squared minus 36. Z squared minus 36, how does that factor? Difference of squares. Because 36 is actually 6 squared. So when I write this out, we have z minus 6 and z plus 6. What you need to remember is that you need to plug back in your x plus 7 in for the z's. So when I do that, I have x plus 7 minus 6 and x plus 7 plus 6. And then you want to simplify. 7 and negative 6 simplifies to be x plus 1, and 7 and 6 makes x plus 13. And that is your answer. Make sure you simplify it. Questions on 7? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop it and do the last one on it.